Looks like we're gonna get a little bit of sun today. Well, that's a nice cloud right there. Beauty. Yeah, there's little holes where the sun can come through. All right, well, I'm gonna go uncover the babies. Oh, good morning, everybody. Good morning. All right, I need 2 hands for this. All right, uncovered. Well, a lot of this is what I'll just call cover crops. A lot of it is just air quotes weeds, but you know, they're very pretty weeds for here. A lot of garlic. A lot of it's bulbs that I missed from last year, so we're just pulling them as green garlic and eating them. Carrots, these were planted last year, 2022, in probably October, something like that. You know, they'll germinate and then they'll just idle in the ground. And actually, we didn't even cover them in here, so which is pretty good because it got down to nighttime temperatures would have been down into, well, probably below 0 a couple times. And then let's see, we just put some baby lacinato kale in. There's one there. There's another one right there. And then this is a red Russian type. And that is actually the green peas kale from Seed Savers. Hippies. There's a mustard right there. There's another kale, another one there. So this is all starting to get planted out. And then this is medium red clover. I like to leave that growing in here as it is a nitrogen fixer, and you know, it grows up. It grows in a bunch and doesn't grow rhizomially through the ground like the white clover that's over here. There's Dutch white over there, and it puts shoots underground. But it's still, I mean, there's ways to deal with that. But this stuff you can just sort of leave growing in the bed. Not sort of leave, I just leave it growing in the bed. And once it gets a little bit higher, I'll come in and cut it off and then just sprinkle it around. It's a nice cover, helps hold in moisture, plus it's full of nitrogen. And then whenever you cut these roots back, or whenever you cut the tops back, the roots have grown to be sort of the same size or even bigger underneath, but there's a ratio between the top and the bottom. And when you cut the top back, the bottom dies back. And when it dies back, it releases all that nutrition for the plants. So these guys are planted right here. Yeah, they're kind of crowded, but this clover can be cut back and then kind of, that's a way to feed it throughout the year. I think that works pretty good. Let's see, we've got some, it's a nice lacinato there. The first ones I showed you back there were planted early and I didn't cover them and they got a little bit frostbit. So there's a lettuce there. And then the radishes. These guys are starting to bulb up there. Haha. Got a nice little clutch of those. And then these are onions all the way to right here. And then you can see got little carrots coming up in here. So this whole section right here is all carrots. And we got the same clover in there, so we'll do the same thing. And I really like that clover to use when germinating carrots, because carrots, the seeds can't be planted very deep and they can't dry out. So that's very tricky here. But I find that if I sow the seeds and then cut the clover and throw it on top, by the time they're germinating, that clover is kind of dried up and shriveled. And the timing's usually pretty good, so it provides cover while it needs it. And then a bunch of brassicas here. And this is lettuce over here. So mix of different kinds of brassicas. Everything from, let's see, this is all cabbage. So that's pretty exciting. It's an F1 type. We normally just grow open pollinated, but I was really enticed by it because they're small cabbages and it's 40 days, which is a really short amount of time. And cabbages, it's a lot of food. So sometimes we make compromises about being able to save seed in open pollination. Plus the people who make that seed, are, those are jobs. Those are great jobs. So I don't feel bad about that because it's really labor intensive. They do crosses and those crosses aren't stable. So, they have to do those crosses every year. So there's whole, crops that are just dedicated to that. But that's fine. I'm not explaining that very well, I don't think. Maybe I am. Probably not. That's really most of the food we got growing in here. There's a bunch of dandelions and a lot of volunteers. There's lettuce popping up like there'd be a lot of lettuce popping up in here because we let them go to seed. And then this is more garlic. And that was grown from cormlets, which is like a bulbil. You can look those up for propagation of garlic. They're kind of like seeds that garlic puts out, but they're very small, so they go in the ground and then they grow 1 year and just make a single, kind of like a bulb, but it's not split. And then the next year, you just leave them in the ground. The next year they make a much bigger garlic bulb that is actually split and divided into garlic. By split, I mean divided. Sorry, that's not a very good. I'm rusty. These are strawberries. So these are all doing pretty good. And this is clover, and it's in here with me. You think it would compete too much, but we just, really aggressively pull it back every year and then throughout the year. And again, it just does the same thing. It releases more nitrogen. But this is the Dutch white, and which I think has its place. I think it's fine. Like, I don't know. If you spend a lot of time in your gardening, then a lot of these things just aren't really a very big problem. I mean, for whatever nuisance they might be, they provide a lot of nitrogen. So, like this whole section here is mullein, which I think is a really good, I think it provides a lot of benefits. It's a biennial. So that means it's in the ground for 2 years. And the first year it's just down on the ground like this. And then the second year, it puts up that seed head. But because it overwinters like that and stays alive, it holds a lot of life underneath the leaves. Like there's no doubt ladybugs underneath here. There is every year. So I just leave them in there. And once the ladybugs kind of hatch out, I'll take and I'll cut all this back really close to the ground with a hula hoe, and then I'll cover it with cardboard and cover it again with a layer of compost and just leave it there. But this would be a really, really fertile bed later on this year, and this will probably be the bed that I put brassicas in June. So now is May. Not even May. Yeah, it is May. No, it's not. March. It's the other M on the other side. It's March, so by the time June rolls around, as long as I get this bed prepped in the next month or so, like they'll have plenty of time to break that material down, and it'll be ready for the plants to absorb. And then spinach also volunteers. We've had spinach volunteering in this spot for 2 years now. This will be the 3rd year. Well, we planted it 1 year, volunteered last year, and then it's back up this year. So, and then this is another one I really like. This is called hairy vetch, and it is also a nitrogen fixer. It grows flat on the ground, and so you can, like, this plant right here will spread out over probably 3 or 4 feet of this bed. So if you're growing something like onions, I find that that's really handy, because you can plant these next to your onions, and the onions will grow up out, straight up out. And then these will cover the bed so that they don't dry out. Which, it's different wherever you're at. But for us, keeping things from drying out is kind of the biggest challenge, or one of the biggest challenges. Through a lot of the summer, our humidity will be, in the teens, all the way down to sometimes single digits. So any strategy we can sort of get going now in the spring, when the dry weather really hits in the summer, late spring. We had such a wet winter. It's pretty amazing. All right.